Ready when you are. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Real Estate Plate. As always, I'm your host, Nick Sakalis, coming to you live from the WGBB studios here in lovely Merrick, New York. And it is a lovely day today. We had a little bit of a shower, cooled us off, and we're not scorching. So I can always be happy about that. We had an issue last week for everybody that was for a live video expectation. Didn't happen that quite that way. As usual, my number one priority, it lies with my clients, and I had to basically delay because of an appointment that held me back, and I was not able to go live. I did. Was that buzzing? Are you okay? We're good. Yeah. So, for the people on in the WGBB world that were listening on the radio, they got to hear a replay of me. And for the people that were waiting to see a live video on YouTube, as I've been doing weekly, I apologize, but I'll make it up to you because we got a lot to talk about today. That and the fact that we're doing something we haven't done in quite some time today. Quite some time. And that is trying to feed through Facebook simultaneously. Now, as everybody that has listened to me in the past through the Facebook live feeds, you know that I had a lot of issues where I kept getting cut off from Facebook, and every time I had a live feed, for some reason or another, was it a coincidence? Was it the fact that I was saying stuff that maybe people were not so happy with? I don't know. But I was getting cut off. So the fact that I was getting cut off made me not want to continue to do this through Facebook. So because of that reason, I was continuously going through YouTube, through that platform, and it for the most part has done well by me. So that being said, we're back on both platforms. And if we don't have any interruptions and Facebook is kind to me, I'll continue doing it that way. If not, we always got YouTube. And if YouTube decides to keep cutting me off, then we're going to have to look at another platform. But so far, so good. Now, that being said, before I jump into all our real estate news, all the stuff that's going on, and there's been a lot that's been going on over the past couple of weeks. I want to thank everybody that contributed and donated towards our campaign for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. I truly, with all my heart, appreciate every single penny that was donated because it went to a really great cause. And it's going to help children, it's going to help families get closer to type of therapies and possibly even a cure one day for a lot of these problems everybody's going through. So that being said, thank you. Truly, with all my heart. Now, I'm not sure if everybody here is, I'm going to look at what's going on with the chat. I'm hoping that I'll be able to see everything. I'm hoping I could see the chat on YouTube, but I can't see the chat on Facebook. If anybody's putting in some kind of commentary, please let me. I don't know how you're going to be able to tell me, but over 100 characters will be showing. Okay. All right, so I had to change the regulations. Things have changed a little bit since the last time I was on Facebook. Things have changed a little bit. So apparently, the only people that could write anything here are the followers. So please follow so you could be able to write in the comments tab. What's going on? What's going on in real estate? Well, a lot of things. The sentiment's been changing considerably and drastically on a daily level between buyers and sellers. And I've touched this in the past. Due to the extreme swings that we've seen over the past year and a half in real estate values here in New York, and don't trust me, it's not that different in a lot of the other areas, especially places outskirting the metro areas. Due to these extreme swings, and the reason for the swings that we've talked about in the past is obviously the escape from New York mentality. People have been leaving drastically in bigger droves than what they normally would from the city, from the inner city, from the congested metro areas, and moving to the outskirts and to the suburbs. Now, one of the places that have benefited dramatically out of this was Long Island. Now, is it as rabid and is it as aggressive as it was this time last year? Because don't forget, last year we were right in the heart of it. We were in Corona world at that point. Everything was freaking people out. People wanted out of the congested areas at any cost. So people were really outbidding each other at an aggressive level to get into homes. And because of that reason, you kept seeing a significant hike in the market values. Because market values are based off of the last sales. And if every sale that has been going down is higher and higher, well, what's that mean for the market value? It means that you're going to be increasing the overall resale value. So, the truth be said, we are not on the same rapid pace as we were last year. And I don't care what any kind of statistics say, and I don't care what analysts say or whatever they say. I'm just telling you from an individual that does a significant amount of business and has their feet on the ground and their eyes all over and seeing what the sentiment and the actual situation is. I'm telling you that it's not quite as aggressive as it was last year. However, it's pretty damn aggressive. Buyers, especially in certain price points, are still outbidding each other. Now, has it cooled off a little bit on the higher priced homes? Not really, but it's not quite it's not quite what it was last year. It's not. It's not right there. However, we're talking about a scenario where prices, I'm not going to use the word peaked. I definitely won't use the word peaked because we don't know if we peaked or not yet, or if we're at the peak but we're really up there right now as far as percentage gains on a year-to-year level, month-to-month level, day-by-day level. And what does that mean if we reach the peak? What does that mean if we hit the top of the mountain? It could mean a couple of things. It could mean we could stay up there for quite some time and kind of level off. It could mean we could go downwards, or it could mean we could stay at that peak for a little bit and then start going up higher again. There's a lot of outside factors that need to be inserted in order to get to that point. Now, the inventory levels have not caught up, and I really predicted that we would have had a little bit of a catch up by now as far as how much inventory out there is. It's a little higher than what it was this time last year, but it is still not even close to the demand and the levels of what the public really needs in order to bring this into a balanced market. So is it still a seller's market? Absolutely still is a seller's market. Are all markets equal? No, they're not. If you're buying a $10 million home right now, you're still going to be in the same position that you normally would be. You're not going to sell as aggressively, as fast as what a $500,000 house is. It's just the way it is. You have less of a buyer pool. You have people that don't have the pockets to be able to buy those higher priced houses. And at the same time, the level of expectation and demand for the higher priced houses starts to increase. So you're not having bidding wars on those level houses unless it's a premium house that has some type of intangible, some type of intricate, some type of thing that is making it pop out a little bit more, or if it's drastically underpriced for what it is. Even multi-million dollar houses can be underpriced. Believe me, I've seen it multiple times. Are all towns equal? No. Not every single town is having a boom. You could go down the statistics. You got to go down and see it one by one. But I'll tell you what your key indicator is. Go out on open house Sunday and take a drive by multiple houses in an area that are having open houses. And if you see lines out the door going down down to the corner, then you know what's happening over there. If you're going down another town and they're having multiple houses and you're not seeing that, it means something's slowing down over there. Now, I'm not trying to be cloak and dagger and give vague kind of scenarios, but we're talking about a big span of territory. We're talking about Nassau. We're talking about Suffolk. We're even talking about Queens and Brooklyn. These areas have been so hot for quite some time, and they haven't cooled off. It's interesting. I've said this in the past. It's economics 101, supply and demand. Until this supply level balances out and we're able to bring some kind of equilibrium to our supply and demand, this scenario is going to happen. So why am I kind of giving you this basic description and scenario and kind of like setting the table on what I'm about to talk about? Why am I doing that? So everybody clearly understands what we're dealing with. You have buyers that have been outpriced multiple times. They've been in bidding wars. They've been in a position where they lost homes one after the other. And they're getting annoyed. And they're getting a little vindictive. And I'm going to get into that in a second. And then you got sellers that are getting more and more ambitious as far as what their expectations are and what they believe the values are and what they believe the values of their property and homes will go to. Now, I'm just going to do a quick side note and I want to make sure that everybody understands this. I'm talking about strictly the residential market right now, and I am going to jump into the commercial market soon and the multi-family market because God knows this eviction moratorium that we just are slowly getting ourselves out of, maybe, I'll get into that. This scenario that we're dealing with is completely different than the residential market, and I'll get into that. We still got some time, so I'll get into that. And if we don't have enough time for me to finish my thoughts, you notice I didn't put the phone number out there. I got so much I want to go through, and I don't want to rush people off the phone. I'll take calls next week, I promise. But if you do put something in the chat bars, either on Facebook or in YouTube, I assure you I will address it. And if I don't catch it in time while we're live, I will address it right after. So now you have the sellers that are getting very ambitious. They're feeling like they're going to appreciate forever. I'm sorry, the sellers. I think I might have said buyers. They feel that the value of their property, their dwelling, their home is going to continue to exceed. And maybe they are right to some extent. But what I will tell you from a historical point of view, from a realistic point of view, nothing goes up forever without taking a detour. I don't care what time in history we went through, how historically booming it was in the economy. It'll keep going. It'll keep going. But sooner or later, you get one of these. It starts to level. And then it has two directions to go at that point. Actually, three. It could stay like that and plateau for a little while. And then there'll be another stimulus or another boost to the economy that'll make it start to incline again. But then you have the other scenario where you could have that decline happen. I'm going to be very clear. It could go one of three ways. And you can tell me, Nick, what are you talking about? What do you know? I know a lot, believe me. I know a little bit about a lot of things. And one of the things I know very well is how to read charts and how to read the vibes. And this is the vibe that's happening right now. And I've called it every single market that we've been in. This is the first time that I've been actually publicly out there on a video and on radio during this type of swing. So now you got me recorded. And a year from now, 2 years from now, months from now, you could call me out if I'm wrong. So going back to my premise and my theory and my thoughts, we could go into multiple different directions. Now you have the pessimists and the doom seekers and the doomsday people that are basically saying, well, it's gonna bottom, the market is gonna plummet, it's gonna get wiped out. Well, I'm gonna tell you something. The way this market and this economy is moving, there's a lot of artificial things that are propping in different directions. And there's a lot of different markets that could get affected in many, many different ways. The stock market, for example, has been skyrocketing ever since it took that big dip when we started those lockdowns, and then it took the resurgence and never looked back. Yeah, it went through little bumps or whatever, but where we are right now, with you pick your index, your stock exchange, NASDAQ, take the Dow, whatever you want. We are well past where we were at this time last year. Now, this is a market that can fluctuate. and it could get extremely volatile. Same thing with the cryptocurrency market. People have been seeing Bitcoin go nuts, ballistic. We're seeing things go bonkers right now as far as all the volatility in the exchanges. One day it's up, one day it's down, one day it's flying, one day it's down, one day is you got Elon Musk talk about Dogecoin, and all of a sudden that thing goes flying. Everything, speculation, gambling almost. And there was a lot of stimulus money that was poured into that market. Not only from the government artificially propping it up, but also from the actual stimulus checks that a lot of people got. They took it and invested it right away. Can that market drop? Yes, absolutely can. Can it continue to rise? Everything is possible. Again, economics 101. Something, a credible investment and a credible type of secure choice cannot continuously rise at exuberant rates on a yearly basis without having some kind of detour. It cannot. Sorry. Yeah, you might have certain sectors that are on the rise. Electric vehicles, for example, are starting to really, take off and becoming more and more of, the norm in public, that kind of a thing. This is not a stock show. This is not a Wall Street show. I'm just giving you an alternative market that we're looking at. Now, here's the difference between that market and the real estate market, especially when we're considering private owned homes that are primary residences or small multi-dwellings. People still have to live somewhere. So those people that think that house that went from $500,000 to now $650,000, and believe me, there's some instances in some towns, in some areas, that you've seen those kind of spikes happen in a year and a half span. As crazy as it sounds, it has happened, and I could give you multiple examples. The fact that it's gone from there to there so quickly, you have a lot of the naysayers that are basically turning around and saying, oh my God, the market's going to drop completely. They're all theorists. Everybody with a computer right now is a theorist. They all basically are experts. They have Google. Google tells them everything. Siri tells them everything. A little bit of information is very dangerous, people. You got to know the full picture. You have to know the full picture. So you have all these theorists and all these, stay-at-home analysts that have either bought a house or sold a house once in their entire lives that are coming up with these theories. If they bought that house or sold that house once. Well, the truth is, the real truth is, and the real fact of the matter is, this market is constantly being propped up by the government. But at the same time, there is a true, real demand of people wanting to make that exodus, especially to the areas that I'm describing right now, the outskirts of the metro areas, the suburban areas. These areas are going up because there is a genuine demand. And I'll tell you something, in a year from now, as short-term memory people have, and I promise you, people have short-term memories. As short-term of the memories that they have, they're not going to forget being locked down or quarantined for a full year. Sorry. It's just how it is. So that's going to be a lingering effect. Yeah, maybe over longer periods of time, people will subdue, whatever the case is. People will start going to the metro areas again. They will start going back, but there'll always be that demand that is on a higher level than what it ever was before. As long as this generation, the people that have dealt with and lived through this whole experience are around, and we're talking for another few decades, that's going to be in the back of people's minds. So there will be an additional demand. The rates right now are really low. I mean, seriously, they're still extremely low. And the other thing is everybody's afraid that once the rates go up, it's going to kill the market. Well, here's the thing. If the rates were to jump up 2 points in one day, I guarantee you that would give a panic attack to a lot of people. But they're not going to allow that to happen, again, because it's being artificially subdued. You're seeing slow increments. It's not going to happen overnight. And with that, because it's slow and it's gradual, you're not going to have any kind of shift of markets that happen overnight. Now, everything I'm saying right now, everything I'm saying right now means nothing if we have another catastrophe. If we get hit by another, coronavirus, sorry, everything I say goes out the window. Everything I say goes out the window. And I think Trevor's going to start throwing people out the window if we have another one of these lockdowns again. It's experience, boys and girls. It is an experience unlike anything that our generation or generations have endured. Yeah, I know there's some people that are still around from when the Spanish flu was around. Not that many, though. Very few. And not that I don't believe that anybody is around from when the Spanish flu was around that can remember anything from that time. But it's a different market. It really is. So people are still going to have to live somewhere. There is going to be that. I don't want to call it fear. I hate fear mongering. I hate it when they get onto the radio and onto the TV stations and all these YouTube channels and they start fear mongering and try to scare the crap out of everybody. I really hate it when they do that. Let's be realistic. Let's talk about things the way they are. These concerns, these phobias that this quarantine lockdown has created will not go away from people's minds for quite some time. And I will say this, I promise you that there will be studies in the next 5 to 10 years of dealing with the after effects and the psychological effects that this entire experience has caused on many people. And you're going to see, there's going to be people that are messed up. There's going to be a lot of people are already messed up right now psychologically. And they have created phobias. And that's not going to go away. Now, I'm being blunt. I don't know what the medical terms are, or whatever the case is. Everybody that knows me knows I say things the way I see them. You want to give me a better word for messed up?
That's a good word.
I think so too. There's going to be a lot of messed up people. And hopefully we'll get through this. I'm not going to say we're going to get through this together, because everybody knows we're not all in this together, especially landlords. They basically had to go through the grinder in a different way. Restaurant owners had to go through the grinder in a different way. Small business owners had to go through hell on earth. At least here in New York. I know that the same thing happened in California as well. But We're not going to get into that. I'm being tame as possible today, and I'm trying to be as reserved and not biased in any possible way. I don't want to get shut off from Facebook again. So I'm saying nice things. I'm saying honest things. I'm saying factual things. These are my opinions. Educated opinions. But that being said, there's going to be a lingering effect that's going to keep this market somewhat reined in from having that drastic drop. This is not 2008. It's not 2009, where we had a complete financial meltdown because of corruption and because of banks manipulating people. And because if you have a pulse and you are alive, regardless of your credit, you're going to get a loan. That's how it was operating back then in those years. That's not happening right now. It's happening a little bit. I see so there's softening up a little bit in the loans, a little bit, but not quite to that level. Not quite to that level. The stated income loans that we saw going all over the place, rampant during those years, do they exist today? A little bit. They do exist. But they're not as rampant, as open as they were at that point. They might as well have made posters back then. Are you alive? You could have a loan. I know people that got loans that should never have gotten loans back those years. It's not that easy right now. It's going to be more restrained. And then everybody say, well, the foreclosure market's going to flood the market. Are there going to be a lot of foreclosures? Absolutely. Do you know the reason why we're going to have a ton of foreclosures come in out of nowhere? Because they didn't allow them to evict people or foreclose people for over a year. And then you have all that backlogged inventory. That would have been on the market regardless back then, which also caused a reason for the deficit in supply and demand. It's quite evident. Yeah, we're going to have foreclosures come in, but we're going to start with that backlog. And the other thing is, I assure you, the banks, the lenders, they've learned the lessons. The asset managers, they've learned their lessons. They're not going to do what they've done in previous years, where they just flood the market with a whole bunch of stuff. Even though they didn't put out everything they had at that time, at the same time, they did put out a lot at any given time. They're not going to do the same thing, because if they do that, what they're going to do is destroy their assets. And right now, the houses and the properties that they've foreclosed on are basically their assets. They're going to try to recoup as much money as they can from these investments. I know this process very, very well. I do a lot of business with asset managers and banks, and I do handle REOs and foreclosures. So I understand that. I understand the whole process. So for the naysayers saying that that's going to be the thing that's going to kill the market, there's your answer. There's your answer. If there's anything that could possibly hurt or disrupt the market in a very negative way, it could be tax laws and more financial restrictions and inabilities to be able to take advantage of your real estate as you could have in the past. We've lost a lot of different scenarios throughout the years where things that were deductible are no longer deductible, especially for the investment properties and for homes themselves, and for state taxes, and for taxes like the glorious state that I'm in here in New York, where we basically have to work just to pay taxes. That's something that could hurt us. That's a real thing that could happen. But it's not happening right now. It's not happening overnight. Just gotta be prepared for that. But I'm not gonna dwell on that sector because I need to give the investment side, the commercial side, the multifamily side its due because it deserves its due. But a quick thing that I wanted to mention as I transition into that is as difficult as it's gotten in the metro areas because you had a lot of loss that was happening in the metro area of people, and you had a lot of vacant units, both in rentals and for sales, for quite a few months. There is a slight recovery coming in place right there right now. People are starting to like say, hold on a second, that's not that bad of a price. I'm getting a pretty good pricing compared to what I was getting in the past. You're seeing a price adjustment from what the um, asking prices were, unlike a lot of condo units, a lot of stuff in the city. They're adjusting in a way to make sure they meet with the buyer pool and pull the people back in. And you're seeing that happening little by little. It's not being reported as much as it should be, but it is happening. I promise you, it is happening. Now, that being said, by the way, Starbucks, I'm still waiting for my endorsement. I still haven't gotten it. Have they been calling you while I'm not here to place an ad? The amount of coffee I drink from this place, I don't understand why they haven't given my endorsement yet. I probably work on coffee. Multi-family houses. It's a tough situation right now. And I'm telling you why it's a tough situation. The multiples that we were asking for on sales of multi-family houses a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they're not being achieved. And it's happening for a couple of reasons. First of all, in 2019, June of 2019, there was a major housing reform act that was put in place here in New York. Now, I'm being very specific to New York, but outside of this major reform that I'm speaking about right now, you could probably apply a lot of what I'm saying to the rest of the country. I don't want to be negligent to the rest of the country, people. I know that I'm here in New York, but this is the real estate plate, and it is for everyone. International. And I'm going to get into international down the road on a future show. But you have a situation since the tax reform of 2019, June 2000. I remember that month to the because it left quite an impact. You had such a severe overhaul that made it extremely lopsided um, for the negative, I want to say, towards landlords. It made it very unappealing to invest at the multiples that people were investing at. It also made it a lot more difficult to be able to operate. Eviction laws, etc., etc. And I'm not going to get into this. I got into this whole act when it first came out, and maybe I'll revisit it down the line. And if anybody has any specific questions about it, please leave a comment, and I'll address it. But you had that. That was the first catalyst of a ding, a attack on landlords, so to say, a effect on the values. And then after that took place, what we saw was a global pandemic that encompassed everybody. This wasn't just us in New York, it was everywhere. Some places were a little less restrictive, but nonetheless, they all had restrictions. Now, in certain places, you had extreme restrictions, such as here in New York, where it basically took away the landlord's ability to be able to rent. Not to rent, I'm sorry, I misspoke. It took away the landlord's ability to collect income in many different aspects and to take any act in order to rectify the issue. What do I mean by that? Well, you had plenty of people that were not paying the rent. Why? Because there was a blanket eviction moratorium put in place. Now, this blanket eviction moratorium was, I'm going to put the quotes up, quote unquote, to protect all the people that have been affected by COVID. Well, guess what happened? You had multiple people taking advantage of the situation that were not affected in any way whatsoever, that were working every day the way they normally done, or collected income the way they normally did, and still not paying. Oh, here's another kicker. A lot of people were getting stimulus checks and unemployment as income and still not paying. Why? They didn't have to. Now, not saying that everybody was like this. Not saying that everybody was like this. But there was enough people to make a significant impact and a financial catastrophe to the landlord community. I'm not overdoing it. I'm not exaggerating it. You've seen videos of landlord roundtables that I have. You've seen stories, tragic stories of people, basically to the point where they're losing their home, and the tenant gets to stay in the house that they're losing. It is a travesty what they had to go through, and because of this whole situation, some people were able to withstand. Some landlords, some management companies were able to withhold, had enough money in surplus in order to be able to cover everything. Some of them are in the red right now. Some of them will end up losing their properties. Some of them are going to sell them in fire sales. But the one thing that is universally has affected everybody on an even playing field and has devalued their properties. Why? Because everybody from the common public, like somebody that might be a new investor or somebody that has already experienced with this whole situation, is not going to be willing to pay the premiums that they once were for the sheer fact it's more trouble than it's worth, especially here in New York. Now, I am seeing a lot of investment money and a lot of different type of landlords that are sometimes liquidating their properties here and moving out of state and buying up in other places, or they're just getting out of the game altogether and looking for other type of investment opportunities, ones that will not jeopardize them in the same way. I'm going to tell you something that's a very different element of investing in real estate than investing in the stock market or crypto or whatever the case is. For the most part, you could buy X amount of shares of Disney, for example. Let's say Disney, because that's been, you know, everybody's darling. You buy Disney. Now, the money that you put into that is the money you put into that. Unless you're with one of these old school brokerages that charge you maintenance fees or whatever the case is, for the most part, everybody could find free accounts that you could have and own shares in. You put $1,000 in Disney, you put $2,000 in Disney, $10,000, $1, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is that you invested in them, that's your investment. And it might give you some dividends, and it might go up, it might go down, it might stay where it is. But your money is your money. Disney does not ask you, because you own it, you're going to be paying us monthly to maintain us. They don't ask you to throw more of an investment to protect that asset. You're an investor. You're an owner. Difference with that and real estate is you're not only a owner and an investor. It's not your typical investment that you could just put your money into it and then there you go. It goes up, great. If it plummets, it goes to zero, so be it too. But that would be your investment. For real estate demands that you pay ongoing maintenance and carrying costs in order to operate, and damage repairs, and electrical and utilities and water bills. And by the way, property taxes. It's something where if you do not generate any income, it will become a black hole. And all it will do is eat up your assets. And in many cases, you might be working a second, a third, or fourth job just to maintain that property. Now, I'm not making this to be doom and gloom, but it's the reality of the matter. It's just the way it is. Now, how do you subset that? You collect income from rents. The rents help keep down the carrying costs, keep paying the expenses, and possibly leave something left over that would be considered your profit from your investment. Well, the eviction moratorium basically took away that ability. It wiped it out. And investors that have endured this know this. And if it happened once, they think it could happen again. And at the same time, I can't blame them because I'm in the same boat with a lot of these people. Everybody that's listening to the show knows I'm a landowner myself. I'm seeing this. I'm on ground zero. It's not like I'm dictating and talking down or being judgmental about things without actually having skin in the game. And that's a topic for a future show right now. In order to have a qualified person that's giving you proper analysis and proper understanding of real estate, whatever the sector of real estate you're asking them to be your professional, they should have some experience in it themselves. But that's me. You can't learn a lot of this stuff reading a book. You can't learn a lot of this stuff going to a seminar. You got to feel it. You got to be working it. You have to have the live, real experience. That's a topic for another day. So basically, where does that put everybody that's in that sector? And by the way, I said multifamily. It's not only multifamily. It's retail, because don't forget the eviction moratorium covered commercial properties as well. And yes, many, 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 many businesses did get shut down. They could not operate. They did not have the ability to be able to make an income to pay their rent, which got passed along to the landlords. Now, were those businesses at fault? No, they were not, because higher ups like Cuomo or whatever turned around and said, "You can't open up. You can't operate. You could only operate at 25%. You could only operate at whatever percent we feel like it. That we plucked from the sky." But don't worry, you don't have to get evicted. You won't get evicted. You're going to pass it along with the landlord. So now you got the businesses hurting, and then you got the landlord hurting. But here's the difference: the city never stopped collecting property taxes. They never put a moratorium on water bills, on utility bills. If there was substantial damage that was done by a non, human-like tenant, you couldn't evict them, and you had to repair it too at the same time. It's a little unbalanced. It's a little bit of crazy, to be quite honest with you. It's an insane situation. And that's why right now you have the investment market, the commercial market, the multifamily, the office building. In the city, you're having problems, but you're seeing a lot more happening on the island and the outskirts, because you have a lot of people that have been moving out of the city to be able to operate. And I'll get into that in another show as well. Opening up satellite offices or just relocating their companies altogether, because they, due to virtual type of working, they realize they don't actually have to have a main location in the city anymore. And that's an effect that we will definitely dive into in one of the next few weeks, because that's a big, big deal, and that's been happening. I've touched it in the past, but I think everybody needs a full, detailed update on that, and they will get it. But what's happened right now, what has happened, it has basically turned us into a tale of two cities. You got the urban and the suburban, which are going different directions. You got the residential and you got the commercial that also are going to different directions. Now, again, I'm going to make this very, very clear. Not every single component of each aspect of real estate is affected the same way. In commercial real estate, there are multiple components. The same way there are multiple components in residential. Like you have single family homes, you have condos, you have co-ops, you have property, you have people that get a piece of land to have a trailer on. There's all different components. The same thing applies to commercial. And not every single component of this of each section is being affected the same way. And I think the best thing to do for the public is actually break it down into all the components and kind of give everybody a real in-depth type of scenario of where everything is going. And I think I will do that. I think I will. But that being said, we're coming to the end of the show. As always, I try to fill in as much as I can into the show, but never enough time for me. It's never enough time. 1 hour on a Monday can't contain my mouth. I got more to say. But that being said, I will do another live stream that's off radio time. So make sure that you do tune in and press that notification bell onto YouTube and become a follower on Facebook. Look, we didn't get cut off on Facebook. Look at this. We went through an entire stream. Look at that, 57 minutes and 25 seconds without getting cut off. You think they finally like me?
Maybe so.
Wow, I'm shocked. Holy crap. Have you done Facebook lately?
Every now and then. But,
They still cutting you off?
yeah, but I'm switching over to, because, I have my business, my license, LLC license on Facebook. So starting next week, I'm going to be using that. So that's, license.
Because of the copyrights, right?
Right, right.
All right, I get that. All right, I can understand that. But, all right, Trevor's going to be on Facebook more routinely without getting cut off. They didn't cut me off now, so I'm pleasantly surprised and happy about that. We're at the end of the show. We'll be back again the same way. We're back every week, except when I can't make the show. 6 to 7 p.m. on the Real Estate Plate on WGBB. And until the next show, and I will be putting that impromptu live stream down the week. So keep looking for that. So until next time, keep investing in real estate, make lots of money, and I'll see you again next Monday. Have a great night and have a great week, everyone.